The Montana Rocky Mountains, once home to over 3,000 residents, all survived by hunting. Now, only a few hunters remain. Tom is one of them. He chose to live deep in the wilderness because hunting is his lifelong passion. When he first arrived here as a young man, he was immediately captivated by the tranquility far from urban chaos. This became the turning point of his life. Since then, he and his wife Nancy have settled here. They've lived here for over 30 years. Life in the mountains is far from easy, or rather, extremely harsh. Their main income comes from animal hides. Tanning hides is equally laborious. But driven by passion, the elderly couple persists tirelessly. Tom's children and grandchildren, seeing their hardship, urge them to abandon this lifestyle, retire immediately, and live out their golden years in peace. But Tom always refuses. Montana winters last 7 months, leaving Tom no time for other thoughts. Autumn has arrived abruptly. The couple must urgently prepare supplies to stockpile for the approaching winter. The winters here are brutally severe. First, enough firewood must be stored for heating. Vegetables from their garden are preserved for winter. Most crucially, hunting must be done. To stockpile meat, eagles circling overhead signal good omens, foretelling the imminent winter and abundant game in the mountains. The nearest supermarket lies 100 miles away. To gather winter provisions, Tom and his neighbor must find a winter hunting ground. Tom and neighbor Will have been close friends for 20-30 years. They've collaborated on hunts annually. This year is no exception. But they're not the only species preparing for winter. Local grizzly bears also stockpile food, making bears and humans hunting competitors. As apex predators here, grizzlies are extremely dangerous. Their power is evident from seeing how they strip bark from thick trees, revealing the terrifying strength of their claws and teeth. While hunting, Tom and Will discover 4 or 5 piles of bear scat. Clearly, they've entered bear territory. With multiple individuals present, bears are protected here. Hunting them is forbidden. Under this protection, grizzly populations have surged. Black bears have multiplied even more rapidly, reportedly nearing 500,000. Entering this area, Tom grows anxious, not just fearing sudden bear attacks, but also because his dog has vanished into the woods. Grizzlies kill and eat dogs. While dogs stand no chance against black bears either, Tom's dog, Ellie, now needs urgent retrieval. To escape this area quickly, recent years saw frequent bear attacks on humans. Walking through these forests, you never know what awaits around the next bend. Despite continuous calling, Ellie remains silent. If encountering a bear, she'd become its meal. Tom's anxiety intensifies. He and Will push deeper into the woods, where wolves and mountain lions lurk. Increasing the danger, Will suggests retreating, arguing a dog's life isn't worth risking human lives. But Tom disagrees. Ellie is family. How could he abandon family? As despair sets in, Ellie leaps from the woods. Tom rejoices. Will remains unimpressed. Finally, the men leave the grizzly territory, with their dog in tow. Winter arrived early. The first snow fell in Yake Valley. The early snowfall drives local bears to urgently seek food. They must eat their fill before entering hibernation. Grizzlies are most dangerous during this period. Their danger stems from heightened aggression. When starving, they roam the mountains, seeking injured or vulnerable animals to devour as meals. More alarmingly, 2 fatal grizzly invasions already occurred near Tom's home this year. Mountain survival requires daytime hunting for food, a process fraught with grizzly attack risks. At night, bears grow even more perilous. They might assault Tom's residence. Hearing nighttime noises, Ellie dashed out. A grizzly stood watching, 50 yards from Tom's home. If Ellie fought the bear, it would be a death sentence. The couple worries less about bear attacks than Ellie becoming prey. Fortunately, Ellie returned when called. The troublesome dog. The night's ordeal left Tom's family terrified. Next morning, Tom began tracking grizzly traces. Will came to assist. Judging by paw prints, the bear must be massive, with a acute sense of smell, capable of detecting food from miles away. Tom's home likely emitted enticing scents, drawing the bear here. Despite the danger, Tom and Will must proceed. Winter provisions remain incomplete. They need to continue hunting, truly risking their lives. They plan to hunt deer for meat. Will uses antlers to lure curious deer. Tom prepares his rifle. Antler rattling makes deer think rivals are fighting. Bucks naturally investigate conflicts. Tom will shoot them when they approach. The men wait anxiously, balancing deer trapping hopes. With bear attack fears, hours pass nervously. No deer appears by nightfall. Conditions at home prove equally tense. Under grizzly threat, Nancy secures all doors, installs electric fences for their pigeons, completes defenses after dark, yet Tom remains absent. Nancy grows concerned. In these wild mountains, night brings greater dangers than daylight. Finally, Tom returns safely. Another unsuccessful day, meaning tomorrow's hunt must continue. Tom always loved this lifestyle. He's like a cat with 9 lives, thriving on challenges. Tom rose before dawn the next day. To prepare early for the day's work, his longtime friend Tim arrived unexpectedly. Their friendship spans over 20 years. Tim came seeking help. Beavers have overrun his territory. The rodents built dams across the stream, causing water levels to rise in Tim's pond, while slowing current flow. Disease-causing microbes multiplied in stagnant water, creating drinking water hazards. Tom excels at trapping beavers, hence Tim's request for assistance. Tom readily agreed. Trapping serves 3 purposes: solving Tim's urgent problem, providing beaver meat, and valuable pelts. Why refuse such benefits? After preparing traps, Tom drove to Tim's stream. Bitter cold gripped the area. Partial ice covered the waterway. These large traps could catch beavers, but posed serious risks. A careless slip could mean crushed limbs or worse. After setting traps, Tom departed. Results would show tomorrow. Next day, Tom returned with Will. Heavy snow fell. The stream froze solid. Ice compromised trap effectiveness. All traps stood empty. Trapping never guarantees success. Failure often outweighs catches. They briefed Tim on developments, made trap adjustments, then waited silently for results. Days later, Tom checked his 3 traps. Along the path, fresh beaver tracks appeared, a promising sign, indicating activity near his traps. Barring surprises, success seemed likely, but the first trap held nothing. Disappointed, Tom pressed on. 2 traps remained. If both empty, another wasted day. Both adjacent traps held catches. 2 beavers secured. Pelts worth $600. Meat for winter stores. Old Tom grinned broadly. He delivered beavers to Tim. Good news for both. Water threats eliminated. Friends profited mutually. A perfect outcome. Tom returned home satisfied. With his prized beaver haul, Old Tom caught 2 beavers. A promising start to the winter season. But he must keep pushing forward. 7-month winters demand more provisions than this. Returning home, Tom and Will discovered numerous fresh bear tracks, all imprinted overnight, meaning the bear had prowled around their property just last night. The lurking beast unsettled everyone. No one knew when it might strike. Skinning, the beavers now risked attracting the bear. Its keen nose could detect blood scent instantly, yet delaying would spoil the pelts. Will stood guard while Tom worked in the skinning shed. 3 decades of experience made the task routine. Mountain life grants no respite. Endless labor fills each day. Surviving here requires relentless effort. 2 beavers alone couldn't sustain them through winter, even combined with their failed deer hunt. Today, Tom planned to hunt ducks along the river with Tim. Ellie played a critical role. River currents flowed at 6 to 8 miles per hour, most daylight hours. When ducks fell, Ellie would retrieve them, far more efficient than humans. Another reason, drifting downstream. Human swimmers couldn't catch the boat. Speed aside, temperature posed graver risks. Frigid waters induced hypothermia within minutes. In short, Tom shoots ducks, Ellie retrieves them. But this was Ellie's first water retrieval. Success remained uncertain. Drifting downstream, their movements flushed ducks skyward. Tom fired, downing one. Ellie leaped into the river without hesitation. But she'd never returned to a moving boat before. 5 anxious minutes passed. No sign of the dog. They waded into shallows to search. Ellie was retrieved safely. Meanwhile, a blizzard approached. Sunshine vanished behind swirling snow. Rocky Mountain winter weather shifts dangerously fast. Back at Tim's cabin, Tom left his truck. He needed to set more traps before dark. 1 duck and 2 beavers weren't enough. Winter survival demanded relentless preparation. Braving the storm, Tom returned to the mountains. His delayed return worried Nancy. Fierce weather and fresh bear tracks fueled her fears. What if he encounters a bear? Asterisk. Is he already in danger? Asterisk. She called Tim. Recognizing the urgency, Tim grabbed his rifle. Charged into the blizzard without hesitation. Tom would do the same for me. 2 freezing hours passed. Tim's limbs grew numb. Nightfall approached in 2 hours. His shouts echoed unanswered. Finally, Ellie's bark pierced the wind. Tom stood unharmed. Relief flooded Tim. Mountain life appears idyllic, but danger and uncertainty lurk everywhere. Scarce resources force constant struggle. Yet these rugged men face the wilderness head-on, without fear or retreat. Would you choose such a life? Yake Valley, Montana. That morning, Tom and his wife received a call from their daughter Kylie. She phoned not just to check in, but also for a crucial purpose. Knowing Yake Valley's harsh living conditions, she urged her parents to abandon their current life, move to Florida with her, where she'd arrange a comfortable retirement. This wasn't the first invitation. Kylie had long pleaded for them to embrace city ease. But Tom cherished his wilderness life. To him, mountain solitude far outweighed urban dependence. Relocating seemed unbearable. Yet how much longer could he endure? Kylie's reasoning was clear. Her plea stemmed purely from love, a child's wish to provide aging parents the best. The call left Tom wavering. He asked for time to consider. Was he truly contemplating surrender? Unclear. Later, Tom received a letter from Idaho, sent by his brother Jack, inviting Tom and Will to assist with a hunt. The brothers hadn't met in 15 years. Jack extended this invitation every winter, to showcase his falconry hunts, but winter was Tom's busy trapping season. Until this year, Kylie's persuasion stirred doubts about his lifestyle. Now resolved, Tom drove to Idaho, to reconnect with Jack, clear his mind, and ponder his future. Tom and Will departed immediately. Arriving at Jack's remote Idaho ranch, Jack's life differed slightly from Tom. Though he hunted, his primary income came from livestock. This rugged man chose isolation. Grizzlies roamed freely here. Dangers abounded. But devotees like Jack embraced hardships as thrills. Would you embrace such a life? Tom and Jack grew up in Illinois. Their father taught them horseback riding before they could walk. Even now, neither could imagine abandoning this way of life. Old photos sparked shared memories of their father's presence, now long gone. Both brothers now stood gray-haired. Time's swift passage weighed heavy. This visit wasn't purely nostalgic. Jack needed help. A mountain lion had been spotted lurking near his pasture. 10 prized horses grazed there. The predator posed a threat. Tom and Will joined Jack to drive the lion back into the mountains. Mounted on horses, the trio set out. Mountain lions are ambush predators. Spotting it first meant safety. The real challenge lay with the horses, spooked by lion scent or sight. They'd bolt uncontrollably. Jack learned this the hard way. 18 months prior, a startled horse threw him, fracturing his pelvis. Months passed before recovery. The lion's hill lay half an hour away. Will's young colt briefly misbehaved, inexperienced rider and untrained horse. But order soon resumed, reaching the pasture boundary, where the lion prowled. The horses detected it first. Their panicked whinnies startled both men and cat. The lion fled into the mountains, resolving the threat effortlessly. With the lion gone, they could hunt in their unique way. Jack was a falcon trainer. This was his trained raptor. Human, bird, and dog collaborated in the hunt. Spotting prey, Jack released the falcon. After capturing prey, the dog retrieved it. Before departure, Jack hooded the falcon to prevent transport injuries. He also weighed the bird, ensuring it could carry larger grouse. Preparations complete. They began tracking, discovering grouse tracks. Jack unleashed the falcon. Jack sells trained falcons, priced up to $10,000, demanding meticulous care. Post-hunt recovery time was essential. During attacks, the falcon reaches speeds up to 200 miles per hour. Intense energy expenditure causes rapid fatigue. If unsuccessful quickly, the bird rests. This hunt failed, yet the spectacle awed all, especially Will. His wonder left speechless. Jack recalled the falcon with bait, closing the day's hunt. Conversation turned to Tom's dilemma. Today's events clarified Tom's resolve. Aged and uncertain of his endurance, abandoning mountain life remained unthinkable. Even for his own good, they performed tasks city dwellers never faced: chopping firewood, hunting wild game. This irreplaceable lifestyle rooted Tom to the land. No game was taken, but his commitment solidified. The mountains would keep him. Montana, Rocky Mountains. Tom endured a bitter winter. Sudden heavy snow blanketed Yake Valley with 15 inches of accumulation. Local bears delayed hibernation, still prowling for scarce winter food. Recently, one broke into Tom's home, attacked the pigeon coop, devoured several birds. Now Nancy discovered wolf tracks, filling her with dread. Wolf packs hunt collectively. An attack here would bring catastrophe. Neighbors faced identical threats. Recent discussions centered on wolves. Protected in Montana, they'd lost fear of humans. Frequently invaded settlements for food. Fearlessness bred danger. Imagine confronting a wolf pack in your yard. Unarmed encounters meant near-certain death. Even hunting dogs stood no chance. Tom left Ellie at home, donned snowshoes with Will to track wolves, needing to drive them deeper into the Rockies. That same day, wolves surrounded neighbor Kelly's home. Tom and Will rushed to investigate. Over a dozen wolves appeared like phantoms, targeting Kelly's horses. Hooves struck back. Dogs joined the fray, useless against the pack. Kelly fired warning shots, scaring wolves back to the mountains. Past decade saw 21 fatal wolf attacks on humans. Protected status fueled population surges. 15% growth last year alone. Kelly's ordeal galvanized Tom. Better to act than wait. He tracked southwestward as wolves fled. Wolf packs moved 50 miles daily. Tracking consumed time and courage, risking encirclement by the predators. No help would come if trapped. Tom embodied mountain resilience, facing unknown dangers with unwavering grit, a lesson in courage for us all. Since 1974, wolves have been a protected species in Montana. Under this shield, their boldness grew. They lost fear of humans, becoming increasingly dangerous. Wolf attacks on humans occurred repeatedly. Thus, Tom had to drive the pack from his land back into higher mountains, tracking wolf prints for miles. The footprints grew clearer and fresher, signaling proximity to the pack. A howl pierced the air, chilling their spines. Wolves hunt lethally in groups, capable of killing 1,000-pound moose. These predators now circled Tom and Will. What would you do? The men tried desperately to scare the wolves deeper, hoping intimidation would banish them permanently. When dispersed, wolves howled to regroup. Close-range cries froze their blood. The pack could be anywhere, possibly plotting an ambush. The thought chilled them, too terrifying to dwell on. Failure meant wolves would return to harass humans. Fortunately, tracks indicated retreat into remote peaks. Temporary respite secured. A blizzard approached. With wolves gone, Tom and Will turned back, racing home before the storm. Post-blizzard, snow accumulation exceeded normal levels. Temperatures plummeted. Yake Valley could hit -20°F. Tom's home relied solely on wood heating, now nearly depleted. Adequate wood storage meant survival. Today, Tom and Will ventured to cut timber, hauling logs via snowmobile and sled. They needed 2 weeks' supply, repeating this until March. Will joined due to recent wolf threats. fearful for Tom's safety. Entering wolf territory risked danger, but freezing without wood meant certain death. Felling a spruce tree, they began sawing logs. A sudden howl echoed. Wolves Tom had driven away seemed to return. Sawing noises might attract them. Memories of fatal attacks chilled Tom. Yet warmth outweighed fear. They accelerated cutting, loaded sleds swiftly. Escaped without incident. The wood would last a month, but wolves lingered nearby. Tom and Nancy remained vigilant. Tom spent a day driving wolves from his territory. But while gathering firewood, he heard their howls again. They must have returned. Lately, the pack had prowled relentlessly. Posing threats to Tom and his neighbors, Tom sought solutions to protect his family. If Nancy or Ellie encountered the wolves, they'd face near-certain death. This danger had to change. Yet Tom understood a hard truth. Wolves always return. Humans can never predict their whereabouts or how long they'll stay. As protected animals, locals must endure this reality. Such is the life of mountain folk. Tom still navigates Montana's lingering winter, though river ice slowly thins. For him, this marks prime crafting season. One of Tom's primary income sources comes from unique handmade goods, custom knives, and traditional garments. Ancient techniques learned in the mountains. Now, Tom faces a packed schedule. This annual period demands crafting. Critical work profits sustain him through the year. Late winter brings added urgency. Adult bucks shed their antlers now. Antlers become vital knife handles. A highly prized material, deer drop antlers in snowy woods. Tom's task: collect these treasures. Winter trails teem with deer activity. Locating antlers shouldn't prove difficult. Neighbor Tim tipped him off about a hot spot. Promising abundant finds, the old friends partnered again. Tim, an experienced deer hunter, knew habits and locations intimately. Tom's goal: secure 2 antlers. To finish his current knife project, Tim claimed mountaintops swarmed with deer. Just days prior, he'd found an antler within hours. No time to waste. Tom and Tim entered the forest. This area served as local deer congregation zone, prime antler hunting ground. Late winter, not yet spring, ruled the calendar. High-altitude weather shifted unpredictably. 6 inches of snow tonight wouldn't surprise. Cold and impending storms demanded speed. Lingering risked entrapment. At the site, search began immediately. Tom trained Ellie to assist. Heightened alertness was crucial. Danger lurked beyond antlers. Bears emerged early. This winter's premature onset left bears underweight, forced into hibernation below normal reserves. Now awake and ravenous, fresh bear scat confirmed their fears. Predators prowled for food. Not just bear wolves, coyotes, mountain lions, all posed threats without firearm. Early rising male bears scavenge first. Sows linger in dens longer, letting cubs grow before emerging. Another hazard plagued antler searches. Low visibility masked distant dangers. Any threat would strike at close range, fatal if unprepared. Deep in Montana's Rocky Mountains, Tom and his friend Tim searched for shed antlers, dropped annually during this season. Hours into their hike, they'd found nothing. Tom relied on antlers to craft handmade goods for sale. Normally, they'd have located several by now. Perhaps luck wasn't on their side. With bears awakening from hibernation, both men grew anxious. Encountering a bear would be disastrous. They'd already discovered signs: a pile of bear scat, suggesting a large grizzly. Strange noises halted them. Tension spiked. Could their fears materialize? Asterisk. They listened intently, scanned the surrounding. No beasts appeared. Then, Ellie vanished. Calls echoed through the woods. If Ellie met a bear, survival seemed impossible. Suddenly, the dog raced back. Joy erupted. She carried an antler in her jaws. Their first find came from Ellie. Antlers would become Tom's crafted products. This annual hustle sustained him and Nancy. Daylight faded rapidly. They needed more antlers, each worth around $20, like finding cash on the ground. Motivated, they climbed higher. Ellie darted around energetically. She found another antler. While the men still searched empty-handed, temperatures dipped below freezing. They needed to return to the truck. But after 5 miles, Tom's old knee injury flared. Agony slowed his pace. Tim noticed his friend's struggle. 5 miles remained. An hour and a half in fading light. Tom's hobbling might prolong the trek. But darkness forced urgency, reaching the truck exhausted and hungry. They found the engine dead. A drained battery stranded them. 5 miles from any road. No hope of immediate rescue. In sub-zero cold, waiting overnight meant peril. Someone had to hike to Tim's pickup for help. Tom's knee ruled him out. Tim shouldered the mission, bear spray in hand. He vanished into the dark. Alone, Tom gathered firewood. Fresh bear tracks nearby tightened his chest. A starving grizzly could kill even if shot. He huddled by the fire with Ellie. The dog grew Sear's prick. Tom restrained her, fearing bears. Luckily, the noise was Tim's return. Jump-start cables revived the truck. They escaped the freezing wilderness. Mountain life defies predictability. Dangers demand relentless courage. Survival hinges on facing risks head-on. Yak Valley has reached the tail end of winter. The ice and snow are melting, and nature is reviving. Tom is busy crafting his handmade goods, such as knives, leather products, and traditional clothing. He relies on these items to make money because after the hunting season ends, from spring to autumn, his family has almost no other source of income. They depend on the income earned now to sustain themselves, making his current work particularly crucial. However, the temporary peace was soon disrupted one afternoon when they received a radio message that the bears in the area had ended their hibernation. Hungry, they were searching for food. You might recall that at the start of winter, the bears had delayed hibernating because they were very hungry and had eaten several pigeons to stave off hunger. This greedy bear, after waking from hibernation, would surely return in search of food. All of Tom's hunting season stock was stored in his home's warehouse. If the warehouse were attacked by the bear, it would be disastrous. Losing everything stored there would mean they'd have to move to Florida to live with their daughter. To minimize the risk, Tom set up an electric fence around the warehouse to deter the bear. With the bear population increasing, conflicts between bears and humans were becoming more common. Now, with only an hour left until dark, he had to quickly finish setting up the electric fence. Once the fence was installed and the voltage checked to be normal, Tom hid everything in the house and even covered the trash cans so that when the bears arrived, they wouldn't easily find food. If they couldn't find food, they likely wouldn't return. However, bears have an extremely keen sense of smell, making this effort somewhat futile. As the sun quickly set, the long winter night began. Tom and his wife, Nancy, couldn't sleep. At 11 p.m., Tom was still drinking coffee to stay awake. To protect his hunting season's harvest, he even thought about moving with Ellie to sleep in the warehouse to guard his modest wealth. But Nancy flatly refused to let her husband take that risk. Suddenly, there was a noise in the yard. Tom quickly grabbed his gun and rushed out. He couldn't see anything in the dark but guessed that it was the bear from last year returning. To make it leave, he fired a shot into the darkness, of course without aiming. The couple shouted loudly, hoping to scare the bear away, but it was too dark to see whether the bear had left or not. Tom couldn't worry about that. He took a lamp to check the warehouse. If it really was a bear, it would be very dangerous, but Tom had no other choice but to confront it. If attacked by the bear, its claws could easily crush a human skull, a chilling thought indeed. Nancy, fearing for her husband's safety, called for Tom to come back. But at that moment, Tom couldn't retreat. He banged on the warehouse door, hoping to scare the bear away. Realizing the bear might have already fled, Tom quickly entered the warehouse to check. There was no bear inside. After a night of turmoil, the next morning, Tom assessed the damage to the warehouse. The electric fence had failed, and the bear had breached it, probably attracted by the garbage inside. However, it had not entered through the warehouse door, which and its bolt were intact. Tom's handmade items, many made from antlers and animal hides from the mountains, were targets for the bear. This incident wouldn't be its last visit. Last night marked the first intrusion of this spring, and it would surely come again. If the warehouse were breached, Tom would lose everything, forcing him and his wife to move to Florida to live with their daughter. After long hours of work, Tom and Nancy have finally completed most of the items they plan to sell this year. They are preparing to sell these goods at the local market. The urgency in finishing these tasks stems from the fact that these items are their primary source of income. Before heading to the market, there are still some important things to take care of, such as trimming Tom's hair and shaving his beard. Every year, as the weather warms up, Tom shaves off his beard. With his beard gone, Uncle Tom looks much younger. Before Tom sets off for the market, there is one very critical matter to address: the bear. If Tom leaves, Nancy would be even more at risk staying home alone. So Tom starts teaching Nancy how to use a hunting rifle. In times of danger, a rifle is the most effective tool. Nancy's first shot misses the target, as she is not a professional hunter. But under Tom's patient guidance, her second shot hits the mark. It seems Nancy has a natural talent for shooting. With this, Tom finally feels relieved enough to leave for the market. Life in the mountains brings in very little income. After a year of hard work, they can barely make ends meet. However, living here spares them from exploitation by bosses and the pressures of society. Their way of life is entirely up to them, which might explain why so many people dream of such a lifestyle. This hunting season has been tough for Tom. If it's not bears, it's wolves coming around. But in this kind of environment, such occurrences are quite common. Tom loves this way of life and cherishes these mountains deeply. If possible, he would want to live here for the rest of his life, until the day he leaves this world. Now, Tom must sell enough hides. Otherwise, all his efforts will have been in vain. Selling deerskins and clothing is their only source of income, the money they rely on to sustain their life in Montana. Counting the money he earns from selling goods is the happiest moment for Tom. However, Nancy always feels sad whenever Tom leaves. Without him, she feels unsafe, especially since the bear has been visiting frequently. But this is the life they lead, and it seems they have no other choice. Hopefully, Tom will make a lot of money on this trip and return to reunite with Nancy as soon as possible.